Today's lesson is entitled, Who Are We Becoming? About a year ago, I heard the author of The Four Pivots. Has anybody ever heard of the book, The Four Pivots? Are you familiar with it? It's an excellent book. It was written by Dr. Sean Genwright, and I heard him at a ministers' conference speak about a year ago, and I immediately fell in love with his works and what he had to share and to teach us. And The Four Pivots is certainly a book that is filled with concepts and ideas that could have all of us looking at and exploring our comfort zones so we might create the opportunity to grow. Today, I want to share some of the incredible information that Genwright writes about, and he states in the very introduction, healing is the capacity to restore our humanity and care for ourselves and others, even in the midst of our fears. It is a fear that holds us back and prevents us from moving into that space of learning and healing and growing within ourselves. Genwright further states, changing things that are broken in our society requires individuals and collective healing. Is our society broken? We need only look at the mass shootings in 2023, that over 630 of them, they killed 754 people and injured 2,400. Or how about the opioid crisis and all of the deaths that transpire from that? Or completed suicides, there were almost 50,000 last year. And yes, I do believe that America is showing us the symptoms of a society that is broken. We need only look as far as our young people in America today as they protest on their campuses throughout America. Their frustrations, their fear, their anger. Dr. Sean cites inequality as one of the major issues that has put us on this path of shattered dreams and eroded hope. He states inequality slowly erodes away at our collective well-being, and its symptoms can be seen in how we relate to one another. Now, The Four Pivots isn't all doom and gloom, so let's get over that real quick. The good doctor doesn't tell us what is going wrong with the world and then just leave us sitting there in the dust. He provides us with four pivots we have to be willing to explore and make to move forward out of our own comfort zones. The first pivot is looking from the lens into the mirror, which includes reflection, truth, and clarity. The second pivot is called transactional to transformative. This includes belonging, care, and vulnerability. We could probably focus on all 12 chapters that he gave if you give me the next 12 weeks, but since we haven't got that, today we're going to look at belonging. Because of the work I do with suicide prevention, I know how important it is for each of us to have that sense of belonging and connection. We can make a difference between life and death. And one of the individuals Genwright cites, a man by the name of Benjamin McBride, he states, the wrong first question is, what do we need to do? The right first question is, who do we need to become? Thus, today's title of the lesson. If we stay the same as we are, if we stay rooted within our own comfort zone we have created, we will never, ever change. We must be willing to answer the call, who do I need to become? Belonging requires deep change and transformation. It means looking at the assumptions and illusions and perceptions we have of other people. Oh, she's got gray hair and he's bald. They've got to be over 65. Or how about he's carrying his belongings in a shopping cart? He must be a drug addict. Or they look like they're from Mexico or Venezuela or Haiti. They certainly can't be US citizens. As we enter a political year, we'll all be making all kinds of assumptions based on the color of a hat, the words on a t-shirt, or the church they attend. So just what is belonging? Sean defines it as mutual exchange of care, compassion, and courage that binds people together in a way that says, you matter. It means making meaningful connections. Belonging also provides us with an identity, a sense of meaning, a sense of connection, and a purpose in life. Belonging is not an easy process. It's not something that we can do overnight with the snap of a finger. Belonging requires us to change. It means we have to transform our assumptions that we make about others, who they are and what they stand for. It means showing up for others in a new way, especially leaving our assumptions behind. We must be willing as individuals to constantly go through the self-examination process. And by self-examination, we come to understand what it is that we must learn so we can transform ourselves, not others. In the fall of 2020, during the middle of COVID and the presidential election, two friends and I took off on a 2-week adventure in my trailer. We were tired of looking at four walls and be stuck at home. We were bored with what was happening on the television and, of course, the political environment that was all that we could see. And so we headed east through Arizona for our national parks. It was an incredible trip. One friend found an abandoned dog in New Mexico that came home with her. You'll like that one, Carolyn. And the rest, and throughout the whole adventure, we each at different times stood in awe of the creations of God. There was Bryce and Zion and Grand Canyon, just to name a few of the sites that we went to. And in Sedona, we headed for some hiking trails in the beautiful Red Canyons. Now, I was wearing my Biden baseball hat and one of my funny Jesus t-shirts. Amazon. This gal who was on the trail also, or sitting on a rock with some of her friends off to the side, she was probably in about her mid-20s. She first saw my t-shirt and she yelled out, "I like your shirt." And then all of a sudden she saw my hat. And she looked at me, kind of got a quizzical look on her face, and she paused. And she said, "Your hot hat and your t-shirt are a contradiction. They don't go together. You need a different hat." I said, "No, they go together perfectly." And we walked on. She had made an assumption as well as a judgment based upon my clothing. How often have you done something like that? When we make assumptions, we fail to see each other as humans. We see them only as bits and pieces of who they truly are. We don't invite them into our lives because we fear who they might be or who they are. We can't even get beyond the initial hello. So just why is belonging and connection so important? What difference does it make that we each reach out and care about another person? I believe in the goodness of all people. I believe that everyone at their core truly is centered and one in the divine, even our inmates in prison. What gets in the way of that? It's called fear or hate, anxiety or trauma. We have to be willing to look beyond their actions and understand that something in their life has transformed them on the outside to that place of fear and anxiety on the inside. Some of us have experienced trauma because of war or rape or fires like the campfire or some type of physical, mental, or emotional abuse. Certainly, those experiences can create fear and anxiety in anyone. And when we feel fear, our natural instinct is to protect ourselves. It is only natural that we close ourselves off from others. Our task, however, is to see beyond their fears as well as our own. It is our job to know that deep within there is someone longing to be different, and they are not the trauma or the fear that we see or experience. In the book, Ben McBride states we have to become better versions of ourselves in order to transform the system. We all want to be seen. We all want that inner feeling that others care about us and that we belong. In Zulu, Sabona means I see you. The response is Yebo Sabona, which means we see you. It is a sacred greeting. It acknowledges the ancestral meaning of what it means to be seen and to belong. It establishes that one is a witness to someone else's presence. It is a gesture that we see each other and affirms that we are connected. It is an invitation to participate in a mutual experience. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all accept others for where they are on their journey in life? Benjamin McBride is an African-American man who works extensively with police departments throughout the United States. He believes that with the right conditions, people can change. Unfortunately, social change advocates often see only through the lens of old world strategy in terms of change. And just what is that lens? Power and resource mobility. McBride sees it as the old world view is based on scarcity and fear. There's that word again, fear. We're convinced that there are not enough resources to fix the problem and not enough time to deal with it. So we stay in this vicious cycle of resenting each other because you're not like me. And I don't think like, I want you rather to think like me. Neither one of us is willing to change because we want to make each other wrong. It's easier to stay comfortable in our own island of choice, created out of individualism, fear, and anxiety. Watch this transpire in the coming months, with it being a presidential election year. A pivot to transform our relationships begins with restoring our relationships with ourselves. The author tells us we must ask the question, who have I been and what has it cost me? My relationship with others. We all know through spiritual teaching that change begins on the inside of us, not on the outside. To belong means taking responsibility. It's about asking the tough questions and then reaching out to others and listening for their answers as well. And I mean truly listening. It's about being willing to let go of assumptions and illusions that we might see others in a different light. We all have fears, but we can't release them if we're not willing to change. One of my favorite all-time movies is Coda, C-O-D-A. Have any of you seen that movie? I'm going to tell you to go home and find it and see it. It's an incredible movie, and it was the best. It won the best picture Oscar in 2021. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it today. CODA actually stands for the initial CODA, which is Child of a Deaf Adult. And I can remember as a child that one of my classmates was a CODA. I was absolutely fascinated with ASL, American Sign Language. And my friend Karen taught me the alphabet, A, B, C, and a few of the other signs like thank you and I love you, so I could communicate with their parents whenever I went over to their house to play. I've taken ASL classes through the years, but it has never really stuck because, like any language, you have to actively use it on a regular basis. For those of you who don't know the story, and that it would be all of you, which I'm sorry to hear, I'll give you a quick breakdown here. The movie is not only about the challenges the Rossi family faces, but it's also about belonging within their fishing community in New England. The Rossi family is comprised of a mother, a father, a son, and a daughter. And all of them except for Ruby. And I found it fascinating today because Charlie quoted Rumi, and it was Ruby in that poem that he read, are deaf. Imagine living your life without any sound at all. Imagine not being able to hear music, your child cry, the telephone ring. Imagine being dependent upon others for your communication because the other person can't understand ASL language. And because of that, then imagine being the 17-year-old daughter your entire family is dependent upon because she can hear. Imagine yourself as a teenager having to go to the doctor with your parents to translate for your father because of a rash that he has on his genitalia. Or how about trying to become a part of the fishing community, but nobody can talk with you about your business? Ruby knows she belongs with her family, but not necessarily with others. You see, she's ostracized at school. She has to get up every morning beginning at 3 a.m. to help her brother and her dad on their fishing boat because the law requires that they have a speaking person on their vessel. School is a challenge since she constantly falls asleep because she's been awake since 3 a.m. And classmates make fun of her because she smells like fish. The other tough part is that Ruby is a very talented child. She has a beautiful voice, and she wants to belong to the choir. She wants to sing, and there are many poignant moments in the film. And Ruby feels torn as she tries out for a prestigious music school. Should she go, or should she stay and be with her family for the rest of her life? Her father tries hard to understand what singing is really like by feeling the vibrations of her vocal cords as she sings. And more importantly, seeing her parents embraced by the community as they collectively create a fishing co-op so they can make more money. You see, everyone had to pivot during the movie for others to belong. Fears had to be released on both sides in the fishing community as well as within the family. A transformation had to transpire so that the world they wanted to create and live in could become a reality. For belonging to transpire for the Rossi family, Ruby and the fishing community, they had to genuinely care about each other. There was a sense of compassion for each other, and they got out of their comfort zones to move forward in courage. It gave everyone a meaningful purpose and an identity. They answered the question, who do we need to become? And then move forward together to create a world and a life that they wanted. Can we do the same? Can we ask ourselves, what must I become, and then choose to change and move with courage? Can we get beyond the assumptions, the illusions about others, and greet them with a sense of belonging? Sabona. Can we see beyond the fears and the trauma and know the good that really lies deep within everyone? Can we ask the tough questions and then sit in the stillness and truly listen for the answers? Only you hold the power and the answers for your transformation. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you for those wise words. I can't wait to see the movie.